Welcome, everyone, to episode 12 of The Draft. This episode will be about the Wurth 400 at Texas Motor Speedway. We're coming off a week where Phil is just dominant right now. Three in a row. We made all those jokes all those weeks to start the year. 7 weeks, I think. He takes a swig of Buffalo Trace and just hulks up on everybody. It's been wild. So, Phil, I'm going to start with you. Tino, we'll get to you in just one sec, but let's let this man have his time here. How's it feeling? Feel good? Feel strong?
Feeling so good. And, I kind of shifted to Cindric at the very end of the show. And I love when things kind of work out. You know what I mean? Obviously very happy that I did that. So I was kind of nervous. I didn't feel like it was an automatic win, even though I had the race winner and you guys didn't. I had some guys that got into some trouble. So I was waiting for the text from you, Ryan. And yeah, man, I'm feeling good. I just am happy that I'm like, in the contention again, because it stinks being totally left out. So hopefully I can keep things close throughout the season. And each week is really close. So pumped up for this week. Obviously Texas is what it is. And we got the Kentucky Derby for anyone who's interested in that. So I had my pod out, did a double episode. So I'm feeling good. I'm firing all cylinders here.
Awesome. Yeah. You are on quite the roll. We did hit our first bet of the week actually was on Easter, and we bet Cindric at 20-1. So that did come through. Felt really good to hit a super speedway winner. Tino, how you feeling? Did you have a good week?
Feeling great. Had some super speedway action there at Talladega. Definitely, was a race. And now I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to stop Phil's hot streak. Like that's the biggest thing. It's like, Ryan, if you win, that's great. If I win, even better. I'm just trying to stop Phil. That's where I'm at right now. Yeah, he's been hot, super. He's pulling a Christopher Bell on us 3 in a row right now. And I want to make sure that one of us could get back to victory lane. I'm thinking about Tino, Texas here for this one. So looking forward to seeing what we draft tonight. And the race should be a good one this weekend as well. So I'm excited for that.
Oh yeah, man. Tino, Texas, Rodeo, Ryan. I don't know, Phil, what do you got? You got anything? You don't even need anything. You just crush us.
Yeah, I'll think of something, but right now it's just I'm above that at this point.
Get the lasso out and hook these boys up. All right, so I had texted you guys before, and I said, we're not going to dwell on Talladega. Like I said, I don't even really want to do a review on it as far as how the race went. Let's try to go all positive vibes here. I know Texas used to be, one of the most hated places we'd go, but and regardless of what people think about it now, it's been pretty crazy. Like at least there's action. There's a lot of cautions. There's a lot of stuff going on. I think maybe this could be fun. Maybe this could break the Jeff Gluck streak here of just all 50% and below. It's been 4 straight weeks. Maybe we can get a passing grade here. So maybe if we are all just positive and send those positive vibes into the atmosphere here, we could kind of will this into being a great race, or at least just something that's more fun and a passable grade. So with that being said, we're done with that. We're going to head right into the race preview. Phil, why don't you go ahead and hit us off with the Texas Motor Speedway race preview?
Well, I'll start the preview by saying, you mentioned the Jeff Gluck pole in the next gen car. We're on a good trajectory. We couldn't have got any lower in 2022, and then it's getting better and better and better on the Jeff Gluck pole. So that's pretty solid, if you ask me. But yeah, we got 267 laps. We got stage 1 is 80 laps, stage 2 85 laps, and a 102 lap stage 3. This is a 1.5 mile cookie cutter type racetrack. 44 races here in the Cup Series in the past. They used to come here twice a year, now down to 1. The winner has started on the pole 5 times in its history, starting inside the top 10 54% of the time, and starting inside the top 5 is 54% of the time. Top 10 is just about every 3 or 4 times. So Obviously, qualifying matters. It's a cookie cutter mile and a half. Like, these numbers aren't blowing anybody away. The winners started outside the top 26 times in its history, and the last time it happened was last year in 2024, where Chase started 24th. As far as manufacturer trends are concerned, Chevy has just been dominant. I'll say this: the thing I said on my podcast this week was, if I had to make one bet this week, it would be Chevy manufacturer bet. They've just been so good here. 4 in a row, 5 of 6, all 3 next gen races, Chevy. And when you're looking at the list of guys, the Chevy drivers just jump out to you. So whether it's the big dogs or it's whether, snakes in the grass, Chevy has that camp. So manufacturer trends, they've got it for sure. So that's all I have here for the race preview.
Yeah, pretty much. I guess one other thing to note is, like, tires probably aren't going to matter. You're going to have like a lot of mixed strategies. People are going to stay out long. There's going to be a lot of different strategies all over the board. If you remember correctly from last year, Chase Elliott was like a 15th to 20th place car, and then just lucked out. Timing of a caution, he's out there, gets the track position, and never gave it up. It's pretty similar to what we saw with Byron a few weeks ago, where he's out front, he's in the clean air, everything's great. You put him back in the field, and then he's just kind of stuck. So, one thing is, like, I think we'll see that split strategy. It'll bring new guys to the front, which could make it a little more exciting. Tino, you got anything you want to add about Texas as a track? It was reconfigured in 2017. We can mention that, but I don't think anyone's really going like that far back as far as their research. But you got anything to add, Tino?
Well, the one thing that I saw, I was watching last year's race back, and the biggest thing that stood out to me was that giant bump coming out of in between turn 3 and turn 4 there. There's just a lot of, like, the racetrack's very old and it's very worn out. And that bump actually made Jimmy Johnson spin out on his own. Obviously he's one of the GOATs, 7-time champion. He was trying to figure out this next gen car and everything like that, racing at that racetrack. And it's just goes to show that even if you have the fastest car, right? I saw a stat too from Ryan at iFantasy Race at Texas, in the next gen, winners have started 4th, 18th, and 24th. So even if you have the fastest car, it may not matter. Like, you gotta be able to get through those bumps. You gotta be able to handle the tire wear that this racetrack's bringing, and just the overall intensity that the track brings to the car. I feel like is a little bit underrated, because it's already pretty difficult to drive this car, from what drivers have said, right? Hard to pass, everything like that. Well, you go into those turns 3 and 4 and you're running over that bump. I feel like whoever can sort of maintain the skill it takes to do that, but also the wear it takes on the drivers and the cars, will be able to make it towards the front in this one.
Yeah, it's a tough track because of that. The strategy. There's just a lot that goes on. We've had, I think, double-digit cautions here the last 3 years, like 16, 10, and 16 or something. That includes the 2 stage breaks, but still, that's a lot of cautions. So you're bunching these guys back up, and a lot of mixed strategy happening.
Yeah, and you kind of alluded to this, but, like, looking at the different metrics, next gen is really where I'm concerned. But if you take the speed ratings and the finishes and you kind of like map them together, you're gonna see guys with terrible speed ratings finishing well in various races. Maybe not consistently, but and then you're gonna see guys who are fast that didn't get the finishes they deserve. So that can happen. And Robert saying maybe it's bad for bets, but could be a good watch. That kind of is that. Or you just kind of take all of that into consideration, knowing, and maybe you play it a little bit more conservative. Maybe you take a swing on a driver. I think there's at least a couple guys we'll probably talk about tonight that could be worth it. Maybe willing to play a strategy game or that sort of thing. So keep that in mind. But it kind of those metrics play exactly to the eye test that you guys are referring to. And as far as hoping that this race will be entertaining, the over-under for lead changes was 23.5. And I think the last 2 races were 22, 23, but the race before that was like 39. So I'm optimistic for plus money to go over 23.5. Let's go. Good vibes, right?
Yeah, those are the vibes we're looking for right there. I think one thing I'll add is, as far as the betting goes, when we're talking about all this, a couple markets that stand out are fastest lap and the most fastest laps, because you can play the speed at that point and probably have a way better shot at winning those bets if something crazy happens at the end of the race or throughout the race where that driver who has led the most laps and has the most fastest laps doesn't end up winning. So a lot of times these odds are like around the same as what they are to win. And a lot of times when they open are way better than their odds to win. So to take those, it kind of just gives you another out. If something goes wrong, you might have picked the best car, but if it doesn't win, you're not going to win that winner bet. But if it was fastest, you might win fastest lap and you might win the most fastest lap. So those are two areas of target for me this week. I have 4 or 5 bets in both of those with only one guy bet to win as of right now. And I'm sure we'll get to that in a minute here. So just wanted to mention that. We'll jump right into it. For people who aren't familiar with the draft, we're going to draft one driver each from the 7 teams listed on the left here, plus a big 3, which you'll see in the yellow square there. That's Hendrick, Joe Gibbs, Penske. We get to pick another driver from one of those 3 teams. And then we have a best of the rest, which is a driver from any team not listed here, and a wild card, which can be one pick from any team of your choosing. So let's start it out here. Phil, you've been whooping our butts. We're going to let you go here first to lead this off. 2311, the first pick for Texas Motor Speedway in 2025. Who are you taking?
Yeah, I think I would imagine we'll probably be in the same thought process here, but we're going to start out with Tyler Reddick. He's towards the top of the board from a betting standpoint, from the outright. In some books, I saw him like 8-1. That's kind of interesting, but Bubba Wallace no slouch here. Just FYI, in case anybody wants to take him later. Like, he's written down for me later, maybe. But let's go to Reddick. I mean, he finished first here in what many considered a terrible race in 2022, and then was 4th last year. Had a rough middle race with a 25 place finish, but his speed rating is 4th out of everyone. He was best in the bunch last year, even though he didn't win the race. So he's just super consistent. If you can consider, consistency a thing here, it's really tough to come by. So we got 2 finishes inside the top 5. That's damn good. And I believe there's only one other driver that has that. So it's good stuff. That's what I'm looking for. I'd love to be different and take Bubba, but it's just too intriguing. Reddick, he's not somebody that I want to trifle with this week and go against him.
Yeah, I just mentioned it, so I'll follow this up here. He's the one guy I bet to win so far at 7.5-1. Really like Reddick heading into the week. Greg just did a great write-up on Daily Downforce. Those articles are all free. That's his best bet of the week, and he talks about a lot about Reddick in there. He finished 2nd here in his Cup debut at Texas. He's good at Texas. He won here in 2022. That's a Gen 7 win at Texas. Wasn't with this team, but still, he's great here, as you just mentioned. And if we look at just this year specifically in this package, he's top 4 in true performance and incident-adjusted speed. So he's there. Really like Reddick at Texas. Rolls off late qualifying too. Qualifying might depend on who has the best track positions, win or track conditions and win. But rolling off late, I think, is nice. You get to learn a lot from the other guys. So I think he'll qualify well as well. So yeah, give me Reddick here. Tino, we'll let you go back to back here, 2311, and then head right into front row. Who do you got for 2311?
Perfect. So I'm on Tyler Reddick as well. I think now is, Bubba Wallace honestly had a hotter and faster start to this season, I would say, just based off raw speed and the finishes he was able to capitalize on that. But I think now it's time, as we get to this summer stretch, Tyler Reddick will continue to sort of be the best car out of that group. And they're very similar. That's the one thing that I wanted to note as well with these 2311 cars. Phil mentioned it too. Bubba Wallace is not a bad pick if anyone wants to go in that direction. But I just love Tyler Reddick's chances at this track. And plus 752 or plus 800 on other books to win outright. That's something I'm getting before practice and qualifying there, because I feel like that's only going to go down. There are some other drivers that I feel strongly about, but I have to sort of tell myself to wait on, because I feel like with the variance in terms of how the drivers have won this race starting outside the top 10. That's something I want to keep in mind. But for Tyler Reddick, he's a driver where I see him unloading fast and practice qualifying, probably getting top 5 starting spot or the pole, and then dominating this race. So I like that there. And moving on to front row, this was a tough one for me, honestly, because I feel like you're just kind of throwing darts at these 3 drivers throughout this season thus far. And for me, I think we've kind of talked about it too, how the speed doesn't always correlate to, race wins and everything like that, especially here around Texas. So I'm trying to pick a driver when it comes to the front row that I know could get me a good finish. And it's tough because I honestly don't have my mind made up as of now, but I'm going to go with Zane Smith. It was like any of these drivers to me, I feel like could be a factor in this one. They're all in the 20th positions around there for the next gen average finishes. Todd Gilliland was the worst one. Zane Smith is actually behind Noah Gragson there. But I don't know. I think it's just something about Zane Smith. Really with front row, I feel like they alternate every week between who can really get a good finish. And there's not too much data on these guys to sort of say this guy over that guy, at least for me right now.
Yeah, there's not a lot to back it up where you're like, this guy well finished top 10, like we'll say about some other guys. But it's like, what do you do? I myself went with Noah Gragson. I think it's funny too because Tino, I flipped it up on you. Typically, like Phil will do the race preview, and then like you haven't talked in a while, so I'm like, well, shit, Tino better lead off 23-11 and go that. But now I flipped it on you. Go last for 23-11, first for front row, and you were all messed up. So that's my bad there.
No, it was good. I had to make a choice. It was a buzzer beater.
No, that's great. I take Noah. He was a beast here at Xfinity. I know that doesn't always translate over and might not, and obviously he's not doing that here, but he has been better here than his teammates so far in the Cup Series. And in 2025, he's sweeping his teammates across the board in this package in my true performance scores, in incident adjusted speed, in true average running position. So in those 4 races, he's been better than his teammates. Like you said, it's not much else to say. He's had some decent finishes here, flirting with the top 10. Got to go Gragson here. Phil, who do you got?
Yeah. So I was looking at Zane Smith, and I pulled up his truck stats because I thought that was going to be the kicker to have me go Zane, but not really blowing me away there. So the one thing that I can do to get apples to apples is I'm looking at all of the 1.5 miles since the start of last year. So that's 7 races. And what that does tell me, I'm just looking at speed rating, like who's just generally been faster. Now I know different teams, et cetera, but Noah Gregson's ranked 17th in speed rating. He's way ahead of both of those other guys. I'm usually a Todd Gilliland guy, but Todd is not bringing anything to the table at Texas from a data standpoint. So I'm going to roll with Noah Gragson in this one, just because of that, consistent like mid-pack speed rating. And his 2 finishes here at Texas, 21st, 18th in the next gen car in the Cup Series. Like you put me 19th with Noah Gragson, you think you win this team.
Yeah, that's perfect. I did notice how bad Todd Gilliland was here. Terrible. And it's not just here too. It's like a lot of tracks like this. Like the cookie cutters, he's just not cookie cutting it. That.
Yeah,
so,
that's a good one.
That's a 40-year-old dad joke right there. Holy crap. Well, all right. Let's move past that as quickly as possible. Let's go to HMS here. Phil, let's let you lead it off. Who do you have for Hendrick here for Texas?
All right. We are going back to the same pick I had last week, and that is William Byron. I understand that Larson might get some attention here. We'll see what you guys say. I don't want to try to speak for you, but Byron is head and shoulders the best, in my opinion, from a consistency standpoint at Texas. All 3 finishes in the next gen car, 7th or better. He's got a win in 2023, finished 3rd last year. His speed rating is tied for first with Larson and Hamlin. Just super consistent at Texas. And if we're stretching it out to all the 1.5 miles since last year started, he's got the best average finish, 7.0 in 7 starts, 5 top 5s, 6 top 10s. just unbelievable. Second in driver rating by a hair, by 0.3, 3/10. So William Byron is just call my name. I will always take the driver who can prove that they can be consistent on a certain type of racetrack and a specific racetrack. To me, this is best of both worlds for Byron right now. So I'm rolling with him.
Yeah, what's interesting is I'm going with Byron too. And what's interesting is that he didn't rank out or score number one for myself or for Greg. But when we sim the race 20,000 times, he was the favorite. It was very slight. I mean, it's basically him, Larson. It's all the favorite. They were all like right there, but he just like by a smidge edged them out. And I think it's just that consistency. That's what it is. So when you do sim a race that many times, his consistency shines through. And I thought that was very interesting. And I saw that plus everything like you said, like a stupid 3.7 average finish here in the Gen 7 Texas races where we just said how crazy they are. It's nuts. And then we talked about it last week at Talladega. We're like, yeah, he's just absolutely insane here, but it's Talladega. Anything can happen. What does he do? He goes out there and just absolutely spanks again. So I don't know. This guy's on another level right now. Give me William Byron. Tino, who do you got?
Yeah, make it William Byron for me as well there, please. Everything you guys said. But one thing I wanted to know, too, was the next-gen speed rankings from all three of the races we've had thus far there in the next-gen era. He's been consistently within the top guys. It's not just last year's Texas race. It's every one that we've had throughout this next-gen era. William Byron has consistently been, if not the fastest, he's in the top three for fastest drivers. And I think I need that consistency for a driver like him. And I think it's also good that he's getting these finishes too. 7th in 2022, 1 in 2023, and then 3rd in 2024. Well, even if we see some, strategy or a lot of cautions happening here, that can still make me feel like I can rely on him to provide me with the result. And I got to just shout out the guys in the chat here because Sean McBride did not like my Zane Smith pick. He said no Chowder for me. That's an inside joke between us as he's a New Hampshire Chowder guy. But shout out to McBride in the chat. And I got to pull up as we're about to go into Joe Gibbs action here. Little Team 54 for our Ty Gibbs weekly info. I love this too because I'm not gonna lie, I did not do my Ty Gibbs weekly data research, so I'm gonna read it off to everyone here. Appreciate Team 54 providing this to us. Okay, so Ty Gibbs qualified P2 last season outside of Kyle Larson on the front row. He had a penalty that torched his chances to win. He will be 22nd to make his qualifying run, which isn't amazing, but still in Group 2. He's P5 in speed rating last time at Texas with a 7.75, arguably one of the stronger Toyotas. That said, Tyler Allen has been shaky at intermediates thus far. Also, his average finish at Texas is P22, so do pick with caution. I watched this race back last night, and I believe it was a loose wheel that Ty Gibbs had, and that was such a shame, as Team 54 mentioned, because he was racing inside the top 10 there. So, yeah, I mean, good to know where he lies, especially between his competition in this one within his own team, because I feel like JGR is bringing a lot of speed to this racetrack this weekend.
Yeah, that's a great transition for us to just head right into Joe Gibbs. So I'll start with Joe Gibbs. I think you can make an argument for all four guys here. So
Agreed.
this is a tough one. I'll go first because I really couldn't make up my mind. So I'll just be the old man going with the old man, Denny Hamlin. So really, I mean, shocker. Like he's a super consistent racer, great at Texas. Everyone knows that. But it really just came down to we mentioned Byron and how great his finishes were. In this package this year, there's only two drivers with an average finish inside the top 10 in those four races, and it's William Byron and Denny Hamlin. So I do want to take that consistency, a great pit crew. That's really it. I mean, you look at the speed that JGR has brought in this package, it hasn't been great. It hasn't. There's, one time they're bailed out by a caution, so they end up getting track position. When in that race, Bell might have been getting lapped. Forget if that was Darlington or whatever. I forget, was that Darlington? Where Bell was in the back and Gibbs was getting lapped. Bell was about to get lapped. Then a caution came out and it saved him. But either way, they haven't been too fast in this package. So I'm really not excited about picking any of the four, but I'm just going to go with Denny. Consistent finishes, consistent pit crew. Give me him, and I'm really curious to see where you guys go here. Tino, why don't you go ahead and lead it off?
I have a lot of options for JGR, and I think I'm going to save someone I'm excited about to potentially the big three. So stay tuned for that. With that being said, I'm going to go Denny Hamlin here for my safe pick. I had Christopher Bell penciled in actually. And then after my Zane Smith pick, I took a look over my stats again and I was like, all right, I just got to go with the smooth play here with Denny. Everything you just said. But one thing that I thought was important with that was only he and Tyler Reddick have under a 5-place average speed ranking throughout all these next gen Texas races, but specifically last year throughout the course of the whole race. I think that was pretty big. We saw Chase Elliott do some strategy. He got back up towards the front after starting towards the back. Some drivers had good long run speed, others had short run speed, but those two Toyotas with Reddick and Hamlin, I guess you can throw William Byron in there as well. Consistent speed throughout the whole race at Texas. Even if we do see some crazy stuff happening, I expect those guys to be towards the front. I mean, and with Denny being so fast in recent weeks, I kind of wanted to lay off of him, but that's not really a good mindset to have. I mean, if he does get into trouble, as he did in this race last year, right? He spun out while racing for the lead. But that's the only way in which I feel like he can bite me in this one.
Yeah, that was an absolute heartbreaker because I had a good bet on his top 5, and I think I had him to win too. And I think he was going to win until, he obviously needed some stuff to happen to be in that position, but he was going to win until the caution came out or whatever. And Elliott ends up regaining track position there on him. And you just can't. That's one thing about this track is like you needed the inside there. Like he couldn't stick on the outside. He's pushing it until it just couldn't do it anymore, and the car gave out. So, that's one trouble with this is like it is very hard to pass here. Like it's a super kind of one lane track when you're like that. So it'll be interesting. And I think that's why we see incidents too. People probably pushing it, trying to do something a little extra to get by somebody. All right, Phil, are you going with Denny?
I am going with Denny. And it's because of the speed. I mean, I think we say all these guys are frisky, but I think in the terms of the draft, it's really Denny. The other guys are frisky for like certain bets. So I won't beat the dead horse with Hamlin. I mean, he's fast, and not only is he fast at Texas, but he's fast, way faster than everybody else overall on mile and a half since the start of last year. So, and at Vegas, none of them were fast, but he was like right there in the mix. So, we'll go with Denny. I will say this though.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to ask who your second choice was, but go ahead.
Well,
or are you
Briscoe.
saving it for another? Okay.
I don't know if I'm going to include Briscoe or not, but Briscoe's 20-1 on MGM. I threw a half unit on him on my podcast because I'm excited to see what they do.
He's my second too.
Okay. So
that's what I was between.
We'll hold off on him, but I want to give Gibbs his flowers here for a second, especially because Team 54 just dropped all that knowledge on us. And I want to call this out because I want to get you guys' take on this. I know what Team 54 is going to say, but the rest of you fellas, minus 115 on Caesars, Gibbs versus Josh Berry. Now, I don't see why this is minus 115. So let me just make a quick case here. Quick rant. I'm declaring Josh Berry's win at Vegas a fluke. I'm saying the F word. I think we all got excited when it happened, right? We talked about it on this show, on all of our, shows separately, and he's done nothing since. 0 top 10 since. It was very kind of out of the blue. We hoped that he would bring something to the table, but he has not. You look at Gibbs, and so if you spot him that win, right, you say, all right, he got Vegas, and that's why it's minus 115, because there's no other reason why these guys would be matched up with even odds, in my opinion, other than the fact that he won the other mile and a half we were on this year, right? That's scaring Caesars a little bit. But if we're looking at driver ratings since the start of 2024 on mile and a halfs, 60.7 for Berry, 90.3 for Gibbs. Okay. Gibbs has 3 top 10s. Speed rating is 9th compared to 20th. And limited experience for both of them at Texas. Understood. Barry finished like dead last in his only race here. But Gibbs, if you're looking at what he's saying, there you bring in the Team 54 stats that he just threw out there. And he's been getting better. His speed rating's been progressing. He mentioned how he sat like outside pole, and he was victim of a bad loose wheel, whatever you said. So you combine all of that with the fact that Gibbs was putting together a little bit of a consistent season after a rough start. He had 2 good races in a row, had some cold water thrown on him for the off week, and came back and performed well at Talladega. So I am very high on this matchup. I think Gibbs, I think he could mop the floor with Berry at Texas. So just giving that a look here, wanted to get anybody's take. Tell me I'm crazy, or get Team 54 even more hyped up.
I understand all of it, and I mean it's not like Harrison Burton did anything in that with that team here at all. They were pretty trash all 3 times. I don't know. I just it's hard to trust him because of how they've looked on these. I mean, I guess he was okay at Darlington. I think he finished top 10. And he's kind of it seemed like they were kind of turning a corner. You go to Bristol, he did really well. So I don't know. It's tough. It's one that I want to look at a little further. The simulations don't like it.
Okay.
But I would have to dig further into why. It could be some too much recency bias or whatever on, like you said, too much Vegas in there or something. I'd have to really dive into that and see what that's about. I could probably get on board with that because I'd want to be early on these Gibbs matchups when they should be minus 140. I'd rather be betting them now and making that money now with you. So, and for someone who has bet the under 1.5 wins on Gibbs, I still wouldn't mind making money on it. These are the bets that I have to make if I think he can perform. So
yeah,
I could definitely text you tomorrow and be like, I'm in. Let's roll. Yeah. Or tonight. I text you right after the show. Let's go.
All right. Well,
so
I'm
Tino,
locked
what do
in
you
on
think?
it.
I will say that I agree with Ty Gibbs over Josh Berry in the matchup because of the momentum he's been bringing, right? Pit Crew was the only real sort of thing I want to be cautious about when it comes to Ty Gibbs, right? If he's putting down these great races, having momentum, what can go wrong? Sort of then is my outlook. I think let's just put that aside. Maybe he can continue to put together some good races, but I will sort of stick up for Josh Berry in this sense. I'm going to say his win wasn't a fluke though in Vegas. I think genuinely they've had in Homestead, Miami, strong car, spun out on pit road, and Darlington was looking like a top 10, and he got, he spun out there as well. So, I mean, obviously that's him on his own doing, or at least had some trouble in terms of accidents as well, but I don't think it was a fluke. I wanted to say that. I agree with the matchup. I'm all in Ty Gibbs. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about it. He's won there before in the Xfinity Series too. So it's not like he's actually good there. It's one of his best tracks. So for Barry tends to show up where he's historically done really well, and then where he hasn't, he hasn't really been that good at Texas.
And I'll clarify, when I say fluke, I mean for the sake of the season, right? I was not saying that particular he's not bad or he's not good at Vegas. I'm saying he won, so now it's damn, now we got another contender, another guy who's going to bring it, and I don't think he's going to be able to do much.
Yeah,
he's dog shit in points and he's locked into the playoffs, but it's really not a good situation.
No, I mean, if you could just do it as simple as this, you want to pick Joe Gibbs' car or the Wood Brothers' car,
yeah,
it just seems simple when you say it like that. Just historically, you're going to be on the right side of history if you pick the JGR car.
That's right.
So, all right, let's go into Penske. I'll be quick here. I have Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney, to me, has been the only guy who can consistently pass people in this package. He just blows by people. Now, that has been too, when tires have worn, which we might not see here, but he has had that raw speed too. He's just been fast. I got a couple things written down about him here. over the last 2 years in Texas, he hasn't finished a stage 1 outside the top 7, and he hasn't finished a stage 2 outside the top 4. So he's there. He just doesn't have the finishes to show for it. One thing or the other happens, like we've seen with his season this year. Some bad crap happens to this guy out of nowhere. But maybe, there's that positive regression that can come now. Maybe he's worn out all this bad luck, and maybe he'll be the one to finally stay up front here and get that finish. So I got to just follow the speed and everything that we have on Win the Race here. So give me Ryan Blaney. Phil, who you got?
I'm going to take Joey Logano here. Be a little bit different. You kind of said it. Like, I understand the thought process, but like he has been fast, but I don't think he hasn't. I don't care where he finishes in stage 1 and stage 2. To be honest with you, like if he's not getting good finishes, like all that stat is saying is like he's been fast, but there's a whole stage 3 that he needs to worry about. And I'm a Blaney fan. I want to see him do well. I want to see them kind of bounce back here. But Logano,
are you going to wear your shirt or no? Because if you're not, then I might switch.
I'm not wearing the shirt. I'm wearing the pace car driver shirt. This is
I like that.
Casey Kane.
Nice.
That's pretty dope.
But Logano, hey, look, this is what led me to Logano. He's 6th in average finish. He had finished 2nd in 2022, 11th last year. Speed rating, yeah, Blaney is a little bit better, but not by much at this racetrack. A 15.0 for Blaney, 16.3. So then I bring in the speed ratings for all of the mile and a half since 2022. And they're right next to each other. And Logano was 6th at Vegas. Blaney was 12th. I don't know. Maybe I'm putting too much emphasis on that metric, but like they're so close to each other in all of these metrics, whether it's like average finish, driver rating for the mile and a halves, whether it's the stuff at Texas, like speed rating. So the deciding factor is honestly like who's getting the finishes at Texas. And it's Logano. He's the one that's, been outscoring Blaney here with finishes. So I'll take it. I think he's 3-0 against him. And that's with Blaney finishing 4th in 2022. So I'll go with the 3-0 driver.
Yeah, it's like what you do with Larson too. Like, and it's been working. So you're going on this little hot streak, win streak here, playing it safe, which I like that. I wish, there's plenty of times I wish that I could do that. I don't know what this block is in my brain where I just have to follow. I have to follow these numbers. I don't know why. It's probably to a fault, but I don't know.
Let me just say one other thing. How about Joey Logano after a controversy? Like, give me that all day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's like that little weasel that like comes back and puts a rest to all that. So yeah,
I do love a good
that played
narrative.
a factor in my mind, honestly.
The weasel narrative. That's a good one.
He's a Sidney Crosby of he just looks like Sidney Crosby, so it pisses me off.
You know what a guy said? So I went on E-Step earlier today and I read a comment and the dude's like, is it just me or does Ryan look like Byron? I looked at it, I was like, I look like I ate Byron. Like, what the hell are you talking about? That was funny. I just thought that was like so random. All right, Tino, round it out here. Penske, what do we got?
Yes, sir. Okay, so you boys both brought up a lot of good points there. One thing with Ryan Blaney, he hasn't had the finishes in the next gen era here, but he does have a top 10 in the last 12 races at Texas, all but 3, and 2 of which have come in the next gen era. To me, and especially where he's running inside of the stages, like you mentioned, Ryan, no worse than 7th throughout that time. He's due to get a finishing result here inside the top 10. Give me Ryan Blaney. And I know Sean McBrien's going to be absolutely pissed because he said, if I don't take Joey Logano, we are no longer friends. So that's a tough one. I'm hoping I can make it back somehow. They're still the best. There's a wild card round, big 3 coming up next. Hang on, McBrien. Maybe I can pull one up here, but to me, Blaney's just due. And one thing that Phil had mentioned was Logano after controversy. Well, I will raise you this. Blaney after a bad finish, which we saw at Talladega last weekend.
We've talked about that before.
We have, and he's always come looking for revenge. Especially this season, he's been fast. During the like, he's always blown an engine, had something happen to him where he could have won, and I feel like he comes back stronger the next weekend. Ultimately, we'll see if he is able to finish the race this one.
I did not remember that. I usually am a big fan of those trends. I didn't remember the
well, who did we talk? Was it Blaney
trend.
or was it Larson?
I talk about Larson all the time. When Larson finishes outside the top 30, he bounces back. But if Blaney has that trend going too, I need to be aware of that. So I'm looking it up like as we speak. But
I don't know about this year, because this year he had like a
he's got some consistent bad. Yeah, but we'll see.
That's got to run out sometime. You can't be this fast and just like, I mean, I guess maybe you can, but holy crap.
You know what trend he does have?
Season.
You know what trend he does have? 3 races in a row finishing running the race, 3 finishes in a row not finishing the race, 3 finishes in a row running the race, and he just started the next trend of 3 in a row.
Oh no.
So that's a trend that I see.
Brutal news.
All
right, Tino, I think you teased a big 3 pick. One of you did. I think it was Tino. So why don't you lead off big 3 here and tell us who you got?
Perfect. So that's what I'm excited about. It's going to be Chase Briscoe. And I'm really interested to see the speed they bring to this racetrack. But even if it's not anything that's capable of winning the race, I expect him to bring home a solid finish, because that's what he's been doing in an SHR car at Texas. Looking at the next gen average finishes here, he's got 5th in 2022, 10th, and then a 6th. So he's up inside the top 3 in terms of average finish itself, which is, we're talking about William Byron. Brad Keselowski's also on that list, which surprised me a little bit. I'm sure we'll get there in a little bit. But to me, I just feel like Briscoe, if he is going to win a race this season, it's going to have to come on these types of racetracks for him that he already was good at prior to moving to JGR. He's actually been on record in saying that these JGR cars are a lot more different than the Stewart-Haas racing cars, which I thought was surprising. I didn't know, how much that plays a factor into his transition there with that team. And I feel like, okay, didn't get off to a great start in the beginning of the year. Now the summer stretch is really where we can start to see him excel. So I want to bank on a track that he's been racing well at before. And if not a win, I'm willing to go for a top 5 finish for him.
Yeah, Briscoe was my second choice of Joe Gibbs' car. He's not going to be my big 3 choice. I think I can make my big 3 choice now, because I don't think Phil's going to do it. I go Kyle Larson. So maybe I'm just the risky guy. Maybe I'm going to lose our season-long thing or whatever, we want to call it, our standings here, because I just can't get away from the numbers. I stare at the numbers, and maybe I just don't stare at average finish enough, because Larson in his 17 Cup starts has only a 35% top 10 rate at Texas. But I know he's going to be awesome until something goes wrong. So I'm just hoping that when I pick him now, nothing goes wrong. He can just get his good finish in the time I pick him. So there's not much data I need to go in here. If you look at him win the race, he's, number 1 in true performance in this package. Just an absolute stud. Led over 70 laps the last 2 times out here in a Gen 7 car. But I know he doesn't have a finish better than 9th in those races. So, but minus 2022, the first year, or no, that was 2021. 2021, he led like almost every single lap of this race and won, but he did that almost everywhere that year. Hit Gen 7, doesn't have a finish better than 9th. But I got to take Larson here. Maybe, like, as I say it out loud, it's a stupid pick, but it can't be. It can't be. Got to take Kyle Larson. Phil, who do you got?
Well, I thought I was going to be different here, but I have Chase Briscoe written down, and so I'm going to take him. Larson still may pop up on the wild card. We'll see. I have a couple guys written down. I mean, look, I'm not saying I'm against Larson, because he's going to be blazing fast. There's no doubt about it. So I'll see if I can sneak him in later. But Briscoe is who I had written down. I mean, I mentioned 20-1 on MGM is what I got him at. I don't know what it is now, but I just think that's solid. And, Tino laid out, good points. I mentioned earlier, like Truex had good speed ratings here, didn't get necessarily great finishes, but like that team can put together a fast enough race car. And a stat that I noticed that I think is worth calling out just to put a little feather in the cap to the stuff Tino said was like, if you're looking at all of the mile and a halves since last year, he doesn't really do well on mile and a halves, but he does well here. So it's kind of like what you're saying about Barry earlier. Like, he's good at Vegas. Well, here's the track. Like, if you're going to bet on Briscoe, if they're going to kickstart their season, which they have been kind of moving forward, this is the track that it would happen at. So I thought I was going to be different calling out Briscoe here in the big three, but that's where we're going.
Well, it's kind of cool. I like that all three of us had thought hard about Briscoe. That shows something. So that'll be in the back of my mind heading into the weekend.
22 on Bovada.
And
Love that.
As I look at the odds, like you're saying, heading into the race, might have to get some Briscoe action going. I'll go ahead and lead us off for RFK. And when I make my pick here, you might think like Rodeo Ryan's like turned into Risky Ryan, but I don't know if this is risky because he always finishes top 10 here. So I'm going to go with Brad Keselowski. He hasn't really burned me in a while, or I haven't picked him, so he can't burn me. He hasn't burned me in a while because I think maybe we all picked him last week, didn't we? Talking out my ass. Haven't picked him on a real track in a while. So Brad here, I have to think that his bad luck streak can run out here. The last time we expected him to bounce back and be fast, though, he actually was. He raced right up to a top, inside the top 10, was fast as hell that race. Bad luck happened. At Texas, so since the track was reconfigured in 2017, there have been 12 points races here. He's finished top 10 in 8 of them, including all 3 in the Gen 7 era. So that's any package they've been running during that time, or generation of car, if you want to say. Any qualifying position he gets, because he's qualified in the top 5 and finished top 10. He's qualified outside the top 20 and finished top 10. He finds the top 10 somehow. So there's got to be some sort of strategy involved in that and consistency there that, I guess you could call it risky because of the season he's having. But I think if you're looking for here, I think it's a rock solid pick. So I had to go with Brad here. Philip, kicking it right back to you. What do you got?
Yeah, I don't think this is risky at all in this group. I mean, Priest, I'm throwing Priest out. He just has nothing really you can pull from to get excited about. And then it's head-to-head versus Busher. And Busher also doesn't really have, all that much to write home about. The consistency isn't there. He's, I guess you could probably predict Briscoe to finish in and around 15th. Whereas Keselowski, for whatever reason, he's up there. So yeah, it's another situation where we've got a driver who likes this specific track, and I don't want to be left out in the rain when, he goes out and actually does finish top 10 because he's done it 3 times. He's one of only 3 drivers in the group that have done it 3 times. And there you go. And one of those times the speed rating was 20th. That was last year. Speed rating wasn't all that good. Got a 2nd place finish. So like, I don't hate that either. A driver that's able to kind of overcome.
That's what I'm saying. Like, no matter what his speed is, no matter where he's qualified, there's so many different variables that go in that time frame. And when he's got those 8 top 10s out of the 12 tries, he's doing something right. He's figuring out some sort of strategy, pitting when he needs to, whatever he's got to do, and just figuring it out. So, yeah, let's go, Brad. It would be a much more fun season if he could get back into the mix somehow here. I just think everyone would enjoy that. So, Tino, what do you got here to round out RFK?
This one, to me, it is a little bit more risky than, at least in my opinion, than you guys have said in terms of Brad Keselowski, because he's been so bad throughout this year. Maybe not him personally, but his finishing results are not there. He's, I believe, 32nd in points right now. So right now he is in a must-win position if he's going to try to make the playoffs. I don't see him making playoffs if he, as at this point right now, and coming back from such a big deficit like that. But with that being said, this is a track where I think they throw everything at it to try to get that win. And if not a win, okay, what can they learn for this mile and a half when they go to Charlotte? Because that's another area I have circled for Brad Keselowski with how big and great he ran there last year to potentially get a win this season. Give me Brad, but Phil, you mentioned nothing too crazy to be excited about for Priest. I'll sort of say, in being objective there, a third place at Vegas and then the ninth at Homestead. To me, 2 back-to-back mile and a halves for Priest with 2 finishes inside the top 10 did excite me a little bit for him with that standpoint. But in terms of Brad, I like him more based off of the scenario that he's in right now, points wise. Like, if they're going to put more emphasis on any of their drivers for a certain weekend, I feel like it has to be Brad here, and they're going to try to do whatever it takes to win the race. And I did also want to answer what Duncan said earlier to all of us when he said all 3 categories with the same drivers, change it up, y'all going to have the same scores. And hey, you are right, Duncan. You are right. But I will say this. That's what makes it even better. We're all locked in with the same guys. These are our picks. If we're picking these types of drivers, it must mean we believe in them to perform. And if we say, let's go with front row, right? We have all 3 different drivers from that standpoint. Well, then it means the margin of error is just that much smaller, easier for you to tune in on race day and figure out, oh, well, only 1 or 2 drivers going to make or break between Phil, Ryan, and Tino. So you're right, but it's still pretty exciting here on the draft.
Yeah, we've got I think at least a 2v2 versus myself and Phil so far, and then we're different as well, Tino, by at least 2 guys here. So, and then we're going to get to best of the rest of the wild card, and I think that's really going to separate us as well. Did we all pick Brad? Is this the kiss of death? Did we? Oh yeah, we destroyed him last week. We absolutely destroyed him last week, and here we go again. Sorry, Brad, if you're listening. I know you're a big listener of the draft.
Maybe it's us.
Let's put a pin in the Brad conversation, because we said at Darlington, if he doesn't perform here, he's officially cooked, right? Like Kyle said in the chat, he's cooked. Darlington, he did show something. He didn't get the finish, but he showed something. Here's another put up or shut up for Brad. We're going to really focus on him and see where he is.
1,000% agree with that. I don't think he's cooked when he races from 20-something to top 10 in no time at Darlington. It showed he can do it on the tracks he can do it at. It's just a matter of, can he survive? And I don't know, like, that wasn't his fault. So what's up, Tino?
Another big thing I wanted to mention with Brad, and this would be where, hey, if this is my vow. If Brad does not get a top 10 this weekend, I'm not picking him for at least the next 5 races, because that'll save my skin. But my point is, coming off of the off week, I think is important. We haven't seen any of the Talladega. We can't count that. This is the first race since the off week. If he were to make any adjustments, it has to happen from within these next 3 races that it becomes apparent. And I believe if anyone's going to do it, it's got to be the guy who leads his own race team, who owns his own race team and is in 32nd in the point standings. So that's something I'm excited to see, how much, if anything, has changed. And we're really going to be able to gauge that in the next 3 races. Yeah,
I love that point, because for a stretch there, we were like intermediate package. It's like we were back to back to back. We could track the speed. Now, like you said, week off, go to a drafting track, come back here on a 1.5, and who has taken a swing. I'll start out Spire, because this might be different here. I don't know. It's different for me because I normally only pick one name from this team. But I'm going to go with a guy that I've bet 101 to win the race this week, and that's Carson Hocevar. So I was, like I said, I was on talking with E-Step earlier, and I had mentioned that he won his last truck race here, and Eric had clipped the win, which, he plows through like two trucks there to win that race. But he did win. And that's not necessarily why I was saying it. I was just saying, like, he did win his last truck race here. I do like that he's running double duty this weekend. I always love guys with extra track time, especially when you said, like, aging track, dealing with that bump, just little stupid things like that. Like, just to have more track time is definitely nice. But here's what I think are the goods on Carson Hocevar. he has 2 Cup starts here at Texas. One with Legacy, finished 16th, and his only start with Spire, finished 10th. And if we look at 2025 specifically, he has had some horrible luck with finishes, which I guess that's my trend here of guys that I pick apparently. And but he has ran almost 50% of his laps inside the top 10 in those races. That's a sneaky 8th best of all drivers running in that position. So the speed is there. I really like his aggressiveness. I just think he fits here. So we talked about, Hendrick and how you talked about Chevy. You talked about all that Chevy power. So why not a team with Hendrick Motors? Why not them? So can this kid get his first win? I don't know, but 100-1 seemed like a damn good number, and I don't want to miss it. So give me Carson Hocevar. Tino, let's jump to you on this.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with you here with Hocevar. He not only does he have the best average finish at this track, a little bit by far, I would say, out of his, the team that he's running with. Michael McDowell finished 11th and 15th. 2022, 2023, then 35th. So maybe that is his blemish there, which leads me to believe, Hocevar is just, he has a lot more upside than a guy like McDowell, I would say. Like, I would trust Hocevar to go further through the pack than if McDowell starts in front, I see him going backwards. That's sort of where I'm at with this here. And also, Hocevar's been putting together a couple of strong finishes, but he's still not getting the results where he's running during the race. I think this may be an opportunity to do so. Like I said, I mentioned the long summer stretch a couple of times here, but I think it's important, especially before we get to the all-star race, right? And that sort of off week there. This is big when it comes to these drivers making up points, especially at these 1.5-mile tracks. So I think Hocevar continues to do so. He was around 30th in points due to his bad finishes, and already now I think he's back up to 21st, 22nd in that area. So I think that's what their focus is on, and getting top 10s, top 15s when able to do so. And I think I could see that here for him. Top 10, I like that number too, plus 300. I could see him getting a top 10 finish in this one. That may be a bet for me. I think I might wait a little bit though.
He had a long response to a tweet he put out a while ago, maybe like a month ago now, about his finishes. And he literally lists where he's running, how the car is, and how he finishes, and how he got knocked out of the race. And it's all BS. It's like none of it was him. So again, just bad luck. But if you just look at that pure speed, and I like what you said too, because I think if you give this guy clean air, he's not giving it back. So I just think he's just got that in him. So yeah, I don't know. I got to go with it here. But reading his one thread that I read a while ago too, he's very confident in the cars they're giving him as well, and loves the speed that they have. So that gave me confidence on tracks like this with him. Phil, what do you got?
Yeah, tough one. So I'm already in on Hocevar for a top 10. I agree with everything you guys are saying. I agree with what Kyle just said in the chat. He's becoming a smarter driver this year. All of that stuff and his success at Texas in the Truck Series, I'm in. I like what we're seeing with Hocevar, and that's why I threw a half unit on his top 10. I got the number at plus 280, so 3-1. That's awesome. For the draft will go with McDowell. A, to be different, but B, you mentioned speed, and Hocevar hasn't had it here. His speed rating is awful. 24th in 2023, 30th last year. So he's one of those drivers that we talked about at the beginning of the show that has been able to overcome rougher speed ratings or, the car not having it and willing the car into a good finish. So can he do that 3 times in a row, assuming the speed is the same? I don't know. But what we are seeing with McDowell, McDowell is just, he is who he is, right? We don't really know with Hocevar yet. And I agree with everything you're saying. Again, I'm not going against him, but it's the more guy that I can trust, I guess, where we're looking at McDowell's numbers, and he's a little bit further down, but he's got an 11th place finish. He's got a 15th place finish. Last year, he finished 35th, but his speed rating was 7th in that race. So, changing teams, yeah, that could play a factor. But same team as Hocevar, he's not going to be that far off. And I just think it's worth being a little bit different from you guys in this category, because I think the Hocevar love is warranted, but there's also just as good of a chance that he kind of falls off a cliff or gets into something that somebody else causes here or whatever. So we'll be different here, and we'll see if it bites me.
So the only Spire driver with a top 10 in this package this year is Justin Haley.
That's funny, but I
Yeah.
can't trust him anymore, dude. I keep talking about him on the
Yeah.
show. I can't trust him.
And you know me, just because you look at all the win the race stuff too, is like I go by a lot of what we've seen recently. So in that, like Greg's incident adjusted speed in this package this season, he's got Hosafar better than both of them by quite a bit. And then my true performance scores, I do got Hosafar better than both of them by quite a bit. So I think that's where my bias also comes in, is I'm looking, whether it's recency bias or not, like that's the speed we've recently seen in this car this year. So I gotta trust that. But
He's taken a step forward this year, which is good. We want the young drivers
yeah,
to take a step forward.
again though, it's like I've taken McDowell every week, but like one or two. So I totally am down with that. Phil, why don't you go ahead and lead us off then for best of the rest here?
Sure thing. I will be taking Ross Chastain this week. Chastain, it's funny, we talked up Brad, but I actually have Chastain over Brad Keselowski in a DraftKings head-to-head. It's interesting that we took this team away.
Well, that bet won as soon as we all took Brad. So
True.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're right.
You already cashed it. That's sweet.
It's funny because we took Trackhouse out, but I feel like Suarez and Chastain are like very viable options this week. Like Suarez is risky, but I'm going with Chastain just as someone who's super consistent. He's got a 13th, a second place. Last year, I say consistency, and then I say he finished 32nd. But his speed rating 11, 9, 8. Like you know what you're getting. He's going to be fast, and it's what he can do with it. And then you bring in the all mile and a half data set, and he's top 5 in basically everything, whether it's average finish, top 5s, top 10s. He's got 5 top 10s out of 7 races there. Ross Chastain to me is the best of the rest on this track and on this style of track. So I don't want to overthink it. I'm interested to see what you guys have, because there are a lot of options, but interested to see what you guys have.
You feeling good about going best of the rest here? You want me to go? I'm locked into mine. So if you want me to rattle it off, I can, and then you can pivot if you'd like.
All right. Well, then go for it there. If you're locked in, let's see it.
That's all right. So I'm going AJ Allmendinger here. And again, it's a lot of what I just talked about. So he's 8th best in average true performance in this package this year, and also 8th best in average true run position in this package in 2025. He's run almost 45% of his laps inside the top 10. He's one of 5 drivers with 3 top 10s in those 4 races. So it's not just like some of the other guys talking about running there and not finishing there. He's running there and finishing there. Since the reconfigure in 2017, he's had 4 races with JTG, which I would look at as a downgrade from where he's at right now. 3 of those 4 races were top 20 finishes, and the only time he didn't finish top 20 is when he had an engine failure. So he can get around here. Kaulig now has the strong RCR alliance thanks to his new teammate, Ty Dillon. And I think you're seeing that pay some big dividends here for AJ. RCR is very strong here. We already talked about one of their wins, Tyler Reddick in 2022. And they both finished top 10 here last year, Austin Dillon and Kyle Busch. So RCR can bring a car here. And both Kaulig cars actually in that race too started 36th and 38th and both finished top 20. So got a lot of good stuff going here. And I actually love the start to the season that AJ Allmendinger is having. Perhaps this is some of my heart hoping this sticks, but I don't see why it would just magically go away. unless other teams made adjustments, like Tino said, during the bye week and, a drafting week, which I'm sure they were really working on that race. So give me AJ. I'm hoping it sticks. I think this new alliance that they have is really paying off for them on this track type. So, yeah, give me the 16. Who do you got, Tino?
All right. Well, I'm really glad you kind of alluded to it unintentionally there when I mentioned the adjustments after the off week. Well, when did we have an off week last year? And okay, it was before Richmond, little Olympic break, and what random team in Austin Dillon came out firing, basically won that race. Now, I'm not picking Austin Dillon in this one, but that makes me think that his teammate and Kyle Busch can come out and win this race this weekend. Sounds crazy to say, and this pick right here may be the reason why I lose the draft this week. It may happen to me, but he did finish 9th in the last race at this track at Texas, so that helps me out a little bit there. But ultimately, I'm really banking how I feel here on what this team in RCR was able to do after the off week last year. They went out and dominated Richmond, and no one really understood why. And I feel like, although Kyle Busch wasn't the driver to do so, I'm not going to miss out on another opportunity to see that potentially happen here. I mean, Kyle Busch is 28-1 to win this race. If that's the direction people may want to go in, he hasn't proven it to me yet in terms of having race-winning speed. But neither did Austin Dillon last year at 100-1 at Richmond. So that's the only thing where I kind of want to make everyone aware this could be a trend for RCR. Do they come back on after the off week? Now, obviously, Talladega, I don't really look at that as a race where we can see any adjustments being made. This would be it. So give me Kyle Busch in this one.
That's awesome. That's great. So, I mean, we're all different in best of the rest. You love to see that. I don't know if we've had that yet. So that's pretty cool. Phil.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first here for wild card? I feel like,
Sure,
do
man.
we do that a lot?
I don't know.
I can go first if you want.
No, I'm fine going first. I know who I'm taking.
All right.
It's a guy that we have not talked about even once this week. Maybe in the race preview.
Oh, really? Wow. I thought I knew who you were going with here, but now I'm pumped. Let's go.
I'm going with Chase Elliott. I want both Chases on my team this week. This is the guy who won last year. So this is my thought process. Did you think I was going Larson? Is that?
I thought you were going Bubba.
Okay.
I thought you were going Bell.
Dude. Bubba's fair. They're all good, dude. That's why this week's interesting. But this is what did it for me. So Elliott has the win last year in this race. But if you're looking at his speed rating, he is right there. There's a plateau. It's Larson, Byron, Hamlin, Reddick, and Elliott. Those guys, then a plateau to, drop off to Chastain and the rest of the guys. This is at Texas specifically. His average finish gets a little jacked up. So if you're just looking at next gen average finish, he kind of drops down a little bit. He finished 32nd in that 2022 race, but he was a monster in that race. Trying to pull the stats back up if I have it. Damn it, I think I might have lost it. But Chase started 6th, I believe, in that race. He was up to 1st. He led 44 laps. He has the fastest speed rating. He had 100% of his laps that he ran inside the top 15. And then something happened to him and he was out of the race. So that skews his numbers here at the next gen Texas car a little bit. It kind of puts that blemish on there, but he was damn good in that race, which is the case that we're making for some of these other guys, right? Well, why not Chase Elliott? I have him for plus 100 for a top 10. I think that's a great number for Elliott. I think he's going to be very strong because when you loop back in the rest of the mile and a halves, Elliott's numbers, stand out again. So he's got 5 out of 7 mile and a halves since the start of 2024, finishing inside the top 10. I love that. Average finish is 10.7. I love that. That's third out of everybody who's ran more than 5 races. So, Chase Elliott is definitely one to watch. And he's doing all this in the mile and a half without starting well. His average starting position is 17. So he's starting mid-pack. He's getting up to the top 10. And for a wild card pick here, that's what I want. I don't necessarily need him to win the race, even though my wild card last week did. But I want my wild card to be up there fighting for a top 5. And I think Chase Elliott's going to be that guy for me this week.
Yeah, I talked about just earlier over there about how he stays mistake free. He's got a rock solid pit crew. There's just a lot about him where he just doesn't make those mistakes. And like this year is a good example of that because in the 4 races in this package, he's 14th and 16th, I think, in our true performance and our incident adjusted speed, but he's the 7th best average finish. So it's like that's what he does. He's just there at the end, and that's what you want. So yeah, that's a great pick there. I had mentioned a driver here who is my pick. I'm going Bubba Wallace, so I'll just say that now. I have 23-11 with back-to-back number 1 scores in true performance at Texas. Bubba in 2023, Reddick in 2024. So I wanted both 23-11 guys on my roster. I guess I don't really count Riley Herbst. So I wanted the 2 main 23-11 guys on my roster for this one. Bubba this season specifically, 5th best in incident adjusted speed in this package. And he was fast at Darlington too. He hit the wall, and that kind of ruined that race for him. So if you throw that one out, he's really, really fast. And he was in that race too until that happened, I believe, early in stage 2. So give me Bubba here. I think he can run up front all day with his teammate. And Tino, why don't you round out the show here? Wild card pick, Texas 2025. Who you got?
Well, I have to say something for Phil. He forgot to mention for his Chase Elliott bet there or pick for wild card. Best paint scheme of the week. So all go there for Chase.
Dude,
yeah,
how did I forget that?
Yeah. So that was a major key. Yeah.
Well, hold on one sec though, because did you see Reddick's paint scheme?
Yes,
I mean, that's
the diamond car. Oh my gosh, there's some Ross Chastain's got a good one too. Black and purple flames. But if I'm betting on a paint scheme, it's that Tyler Reddick and then Chase Elliott as well. Oh my gosh.
Go to
those might be the 2 I get
Twitter
from you
directly.
guys.
Yeah, you saw the video, right, with Reddick and his wife? Yeah.
The picture they took, it looks awesome. That's a race-winning car. When you look at a paint scheme of the week and you're like, okay, that one has race-winning speed already. It's Tyler Reddick and it's Chase Elliott.
Oh my god,
100%.
That is sick. The Reddick Jordan.
Yeah, the Reddick one's like that diecast would sell.
Oh my goodness.
An insane amount. Yeah, that thing is crazy.
I think that might be the one I have to get when I win the draft, season long standings.
Yeah.
But for my pick in the wild card, it's not anything too surprising or flashy in this one. I in fact was gonna pick him in the big 3, but then got my thoughts swapped around, and that's okay. Gonna be Kyle Larson. I have to do it here based off of me having him to win the race outright at Texas last year. He was the fastest car by a mile, right? So we talk about drivers and how this race played out in terms of cautions and strategies and the big bump and everything like that. It was because Tyler Reddick's tire fell off that we were even talking about that stuff. I think it's a domination race in a Kyle Larson masterclass if his tire stays on. And I was live betting him when he was 22-1 because of that, because he looked like even after that, he was flying through the field. So just because of that, I got to go with Larson. I'll take the rest of my time here to shout out the chat because I appreciate Wyatt joining us. Eric in the chat, he was happy about the AJ Allmendinger pick as well. Team 54 saying if he didn't pick his top 5, if he didn't pick Ty Gibbs, Blaney, Byron, Bubba, Elliott, and Bell. Like that there. Sean McBride's still pissed I didn't pick Joey Logano. Kyle saying Tyler Reddick's car is the best. And one thing I want to know too, no Shador Sanders picked in our draft. Sorry for him. Dion was talking him up a lot throughout the draft process. We didn't. He just ultimately goes undrafted here for us. And then Sean McBride saying, yeah, no, we didn't prank call him though, so that's all right.
Yeah.
He can't wait for New Hampshire Motor Speedway with Tino this year. It's going to be a weekend I wouldn't miss for the world. Guys, don't tell Sean McBride, but that's my sister's wedding, so I will not be there.
Oh my goodness. Oh my god. You're killing this guy.
Hey, he's your friend now, Bill.
All right.
Nice.
Wow.
Well, guys, that was a great show. I do like we are different. We're different quite a bit here. So we'll see what plays out. I like every team. I mean, that's the thing. And even the guys like I didn't take, like I thought about Briscoe. You know, that's just something I'm going to keep in the back of my mind as I look at bets and play DFS and things like that. You know, just all these thoughts I had and all the notes that I would make for the show. Appreciate everyone again, you know, saying all the comments and everything, help them out. I know a lot of people at Win the Race hit the Cindric bet last week. Hopefully now, like we had the bye week, we had a super speedway. Hopefully now we can get back into giving out some winners on the show here. It was tough this week because I only had, you know, like the fastest lap and most fastest lap markets bet. So there wasn't much to give out except do have that Reddick winner. We do have value on Win the Race. 550, 2311 bet is out there. So if you can find 550 and you wanted to get Bubba in there because you were nervous about it or something, you could do that. If you wanted both of them, still shows value, I think, down to like 350 or 400 there. Other than that, Tino, what else do you have bet this week? Do you have anything we didn't mention?
Well, the top 10 drivers for me, Hocevar, and then I was thinking a little bit about Bubba Wallace in that market. For me, I kind of want to go with the top 5 in Briscoe and then maybe a little Kyle Busch if I get too excited because I don't want to
Wow.
I don't think I can do the outright, but I feel like he's going to bring that speed. And then 4 outright picks as of now, the ones that I have locked in, William Byron, Kyle Larson, Tyler Reddick. One that I want to add is Chase Briscoe, but I'm going to wait until after qualifying to really see and practice too. I think the average lap times and lap averages is something that I want to see from him, that he does have that long run speed because I feel like that's where he can benefit. But 3 guys I got right now are the favorites. So maybe that's not too crazy, but at least with Reddick right now, I'm playing plus 750. I got to capitalize. Now, Byron, I think, could also get more value, closing line value after qualifying because he was the driver that started 18th and won in 2023. So.
All right, cool. Yeah, and so you guys were both on hosts of our top 10 before we even talked about it, right? And I didn't send you anything, so we're all on the same page there. That's good.
Yeah, that was like natural. Found that one, and it's good to see.
All right, cool, awesome. Well, thank you guys. Phil, why don't you let everyone know where they can find all your work?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Ryan, Tino, as always, love the chat tonight. You guys are great. Makes this so much fun. You can find my stuff at Full Tank Phil, Instagram and X, and Full Tank Phil's name of the podcast. If you're into horses, Kentucky Derby this weekend, I do a double episode where I break down all the 20 horses. I'm going to be firing this weekend. Just like
you're gonna love Saratoga, man. You're gonna love it.
The pet that I'll throw out right now, the one that I just have on my mind in this moment, is the 8 horse in an exacta with the 14. That's Journalism and Tistastic 1-2. That's the bet that I like right now. I think Journalism is as good as you can get with a horse with no flaws coming in, so he's an obvious favorite. But Tistastic, I think, is one that could be a good closer, kind of snake some people in the end. He won Louisiana Derby a long time ago. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind. And I think he's going to be showing up late. So that's the exact I'll give out right now, just early in the week.
Pino, that's the 8 horse. Is that a sign? The 8 is the 8.
Yes, it is. Dude, I was in my head. I'm going crazy that you said the 8 because that means Kyle Busch is winning this weekend.
Oh,
and I'm winning the draft.
doctor.
Yeah. That's exactly what I ordered. Thank you, Phil. Now it was a great episode, and I'm excited because we're all very close right now. Me with 4, Ryan 3, Phil 3. I'm trying to end Phil's winning streak right now, trying to beat you 2 guys in the draft as well. You guys can find me at Tino, PATTIGNO, across all socials. Tune in, SiriusXM NASCAR Radio, Friday morning best bets, and I am on Tubi TV, Tino Tubi, there for Sirius. That's the best bet segment. It was on radio, now it's on TV as well. And shout out to everyone in the chat. I'll go as quick as I can here. Team 54, I'll give him a little time because he will be at the race. So if anyone's tuned in and you want to say hi to him, he'll be there. He'll be watching High Limit on Thursday as well, and in the Cup Series around turn 1. So, hey, I'm hoping Ty Gibbs has a strong one for you there. Appreciate your time in the chat and your stats as always, Team 54. But shout out to Sean McBrien as well. He thinks I'm losing the draft this week. Minus 550 is insane.
Yikes.
Really lost a friend here in this one. That's the most apparent thing. But
wow.
Kyle, Robert, Eric, Wyatt, let's keep going. Hot Pass joined us just to say we're some bums. Appreciate him as always, though.
There he is.
Duncan, everyone in the chat. It's been awesome. Big Ross lit in as well. And it was just great to see you guys in the chat, especially after a Talladega week. It's good to sort of be back to this racing action here at Texas, and hopefully it's Tino, Texas after it's all said and done.
Awesome. Yeah, thank everyone for tuning in, especially, those that do leave the comments and interact with the show. That's what it's all about. If you guys ever have questions or bets or anything you want to talk about, just make sure you put it in there. Tino will pull it up, and we'll chop it up with you guys. Love Kyle and Brian tuning in. If you look on the bottom of the screen there, the Angle of Pursuit podcast, those guys do 2 episodes a week. They crush it. Betting, DFS. Definitely go subscribe to that on Spotify or podcasts or whatever you listen to your pods on. And then Daily Downforce. And I did the show with Eric Estep this morning on Out of the Groove. That's always a fun time. Doing that almost every week with him on a, Wednesday or Thursday, we'll air that. And again, just like, if you like what you're listening to tonight, it's kind of what we do. We just talk about a lot of different drivers, probably 5 to 10 drivers, some cool stats, stuff like that, and just get you prepared for the race. Grid Rival, you can sign up there. Great contests all season long. You can use the code Win the Race, get up to $100 back in your first deposit. And then the guys at Nuke the House, they've just been crushing the live bets this year. They tie a lot of things together. The way they bet is very smart with the odds that we're seeing now, tying different sports into this. And I know some people get a little nervous to parlay every now and then, but it does up these numbers and you're getting a lot more chances and swings at some good hits. So check Keg out there. Tommy doing UFC, all their stuff at Nuke the House is great. And then our boy Iowa too. He's always in our Discord, chopping it up NASCAR style as well. He's got everything locked in, him and Keg on their show. So thank you guys for tuning in. Really appreciate it. We'll be back next week, Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Enjoy Texas.